Welcome to the Unaffiliated Creatives Podcast, a show where independent artists can learn from other independent artists. My name is K.A. Everyday, and each week I will be speaking with some of the most creative minds in the indie music space, trying to figure out what they have learned while navigating through the music industry without the support of major record labels. This podcast is brought to you by the good people over at King Neppy Studios and powered by Red Weasel Media. Thanks for tuning in to the Unaffiliated Creators Podcast. I'm your host, K.A. Everyday. This is the indie artist safe place, so take off your shoes, get comfortable, and stay a while. Do us a favor and please rate the show. And if you have any feedback for us, please email us at unaffiliatedcreatives@gmail.com. The snippet you heard playing was a song titled Pushing by indie artist TheRealPatience. Now that everybody has taken off their shoes and gotten comfortable, Patience, what you been up to?
Yo, man, appreciate you having me on the show. Listen, man, I've been putting together a compilation, man. I've been going through a rebranding. A lot of people may have known me by just Patience in the past. And what I realized is when everything shifted from the traditional way of selling music, CDs and all of that, to this algorithm-based streaming services, you know, my name has like drawn in a whole lot of different people that's not really affiliated with the Christian hip hop space. So I'm going through a rebranding to make sure that the people that are looking for my music and looking for me can find me, man. So I'm putting together a compilation album of a lot of music for the people who may think I'm a new artist. You know what I mean? I've been around doing music for a while, you know what I mean, since like 2005, but started putting out albums probably around 2008. You know what I mean? But I want to put together like what I feel is some of my best work and make sure that I present it to the people, man. And that's what I've been working on.
All right, so just to let everybody know, he is the real Patience, not to get confused with the fake Patience that might be out there.
That's right.
He's the real one. So let's just get that clear.
The real one. Y'all know what it is.
You already know what it is. So he already kind of explained he's been doing this for a while. So let me ask you, have you always been a Christian hip-hop artist, or if not, when did you make the switch from being a secular artist to a Christian hip-hop artist?
Yeah, man, no, it started off, you know what I mean, as you know, back then it was just hip-hop. You know, I didn't know really much about, you know, this secular and, you know, otherwise that's become around like within the last decade or whatever. But prior to that, I was just doing hip-hop, you know. What I saw, you know, growing up in inner city Atlanta, man, you know, I was just putting my own spin on it. So, you know, I grew up in a church, so I didn't curse in my music or do like, you know, overly disrespectful stuff, but it still wasn't like glorifying God. So, you know, even though I had fun and was doing it with my homeboys, but it just, you know, it didn't sit right in my spirit. So when I stopped, it's probably around 2003, when I stopped doing that, I had just quit music altogether because there was really no example at that time that I knew of. It may have been out there, but that people were doing Christian hip hop, you know, in a way, you know, that I felt like was doing it in an excellent way. I didn't really see that. So I just stopped doing music altogether, started writing poetry and stuff like that. But I had a youth leader at my church was like, you know, she heard one of my poems and it's so crazy because it's like, she was like, you need to put a beat behind this because it sounds like you rapping. I was like, yo. So after like 2 years of doing nothing, she came back and like confirmed that like, yo, okay, this is something, even though I don't have an example, maybe I need to start, you know, blazing that path and letting people know that this can be done. So I would say probably 2005 is when I made that shift, you know, to doing Christian rap, and then just been building, educating myself and just learning because, you know, Christian rap is a subculture of the subculture because hip hop is a subculture of the, you know, of music. And so it's a subculture of the subculture. So it's a very niche place. So trying to find out exactly how this fits, you know, within the hip hop genre, you know, within the rap genre, how can it be done, you know, especially from the South, being from the South. So, you know, it was a learning process as much as it was, you know, just growing and developing as a music artist. So I'll probably say I made the switch probably around 2005.
All right, so let me ask you this. How do you feel about the current state of Christian rap? And do you feel that some artists are starting to blur the lines a little bit when it comes to Christian rap?
You know what, man? I'm gonna be honest, man. I love the current state of Christian rap, man. And I know this kind of sounds like a Shakespeare poem when it says it was the best of times or the worst of times. Because I feel like, man, Christian hip hop is in a space where it's never been managed. It's actually come from being kind of in the basement. You know, kind of how hip hop was in the 80s. You know what I mean? And then it just kind of made its way out to the mainstream. Christian hip hop is following that similar path because now, man, you can hear Christian hip hop, you know, on ESPN. You know what I mean? A lot of artists like, you know, Jason Tatum and other people are using it, you know, in their Instagram reels. So, I mean, it's everywhere. You hear it on commercials. You hear it everywhere now. You know what I mean? And I think that's great because what people are seeing is, yo, these guys and these ladies, they're making quality music. And we don't even got to worry about it, you know, clearing FCC or nothing because, I mean, it's already clean. We ain't got to ask them for a clean version or get somebody to clean it up. It's already clean. It's good music. But at the same time, you got young Christian hip hop artists who may not really understand or have a passion for it. They just see the success. So they're just like, well, I probably won't make it as a secular artist, so let me try to do this. You know what I mean? And see if I can get on. I'll just sprinkle a little Jesus in there every now and then and see if, you know, I can build up a fan base and get on that way. But, you know, so that right there is disappointing because I feel like, you know, as an artist, you have a sphere of influence. You're responsible to that sphere of influence that you have to make sure that you're using your gifts to help them grow. You know what I mean? So I feel like it's in a great space because the people who have really been dedicated and diligent, you know what I mean? God has given them favor and shown and enlarged their territory to where they're selling out stadiums, you know what I mean? Which is crazy, man, because, you know, when I first started out, man, just trying to get 50 people to show up was great. But now they selling out stadiums, doing not just national tours, man, worldwide tours, man. I just saw Lecrae was, over in Germany or somewhere overseas, man, but selling out stadiums over. So this is something that I didn't know would be possible. But so it's in a great space, but also it's just like, you know, secular hip hop where you have a lot of new hip hop artists. They just see the success that Drake has. They see the success that Dirk has. They see the success that Lil Baby has, and they feel like they can skip steps to get there. They don't want to put the work in or really find out their voice or what their calling is in this space. You know what I mean? They just see the success, and so they want to jump to that. And along the way, a lot of people who may become fans of their music, you know, what happens is out of their frustration, you know what I mean? They may start bashing other people or they may not put out quality music or their music may be coming from a place of frustration instead of creating from a place of, listen, I want to do the best that I can to make sure I communicate a good message, you know, to those who are listening. So I feel like it's in a great space, man. But you know, with as you know, I heard somebody say, man, with every new level, you know what I mean, comes new problems. You know, Biggie said it, more money, more problems. So it also comes with when you achieve new heights, new issues come. So, but I'm excited about where it is and where it's going.
All right, so I'm not trying to throw a trick question at you, but I had to ask you. So you classify yourself as a Christian hip hop artist. So I got to ask you, do you feel there's a difference between saying gospel rap versus Christian hip hop? Or is it the same thing?
That's a good question. I guess it would depend on who you ask. To me personally, I don't think there's a difference. You know what I mean? I feel like it's the same thing. You know what I mean? And so, because that's another thing that Christian hip hop, gospel rap, you know what I mean, gospel hip hop, it's another thing that this genre has went through, you know, for so many years, which is, how do you classify this? You know what I mean? Like, what do you actually call it? Because you have some artists who say, well, I'm a Christian rap artist. Other people will say, I'm a Christian hip hop artist. Some people will say, well, I'm a gospel rap artist. You know, and so it can kind of get, you know, lost in the sauce somewhere. But to me, I feel like this. If you are a Christian first and then you're using your talents and your gifts to create music, then I feel like that's what it is. If you want to call yourself a gospel rap artist, I'm cool with that. If you want to call yourself a Christian hip hop artist, I'm cool with that. I'm more concerned about like, or what are you putting out to the masses? You see what I'm saying? Like, what kind of product and what are you putting out? Like, and what are you seeking after? Like, are you seeking after your glory or God's glory? So that's kind of my take on it. But other people may feel more passionate about it and say, "Oh no, there's a clear difference," but I don't see a clear difference.
Okay. I hate to put you on the hot seat, but I had to ask you this question, and I'm gonna give you mine. So give me your top 5 Christian hip hop artists, and you can give them to me in any order.
Oh man, you definitely put me on that hot seat. All right, okay. All right. So I'm gonna give you my top 5, and I'm gonna qualify this. Okay, I'm gonna qualify this. My top 5 is based on, of course, being able to put out quality music, right? Consistency, all right? Consistency is key. Longevity is key. Of course, lyricism is important, and impact, all right? All of that. Okay, so with that being said, I'm not going to give it to you in a specific order. This is just 5, because I don't want people coming out of my neck, like, but this is just 5 artists who I feel like are at the top. All right, okay. So we got Lecrae, we got Bizzle, we got KB, we got I don't want to mispronounce his name, is Toby. I don't. It's Toby Nwade. I think that's how you say it. I'm sorry, brother, if I messed your name up. But that's 4. And number 5, man. This is tough, dude. This is tough. But number 5, who am I gonna go with? It's so many artists after that. Okay, so I guess when I go with the lyrics, okay, so I'm gonna go Andy Mineo for number 5. Because like I said, consistency is important, quality of music, longevity, lyricism, impact. That's how I rank them. Other people can rank it how they want, but I just wanted to put that qualifier in. That's why you got my 5.
All right, so we got some of the same people. So here's my top 5. So I had Lecrae,
okay.
I had Lecrae, Andy Mineo, Trip Lee, Tadashi, and Bizzle.
Okay.
So that's my top 5.
Okay, man. Yeah. I can't argue with your 5, man. I can't argue with your 5 because they definitely meet that criteria, man. I can't argue with your 5.
All right. So now that you done gave me the top 5, I got to make it a little harder now. So who would you say is the GOAT? Like, who's the best? Who do you think is the best?
I got to listen. Okay, I'm going to qualify this again, all right? The best, in my opinion, is, I got to go back to it. It's about putting out quality music consistently, all right? As well as having lyricism, presentation, impact, right? Those are my 5, like quality, all right? So with that being said, I got to go with Lecrae. I don't understand how anybody can have, in the Christian hip hop space, how you can have anybody above him. You can argue there are better lyricists, and I can't really argue with that. You know what I mean? Someone in my top 5, I feel like Toby, Nwade is a better lyricist. You see what I'm saying? But I'm talking about as far as like I said, impact, consistency, quality, and putting out an impact, just putting out things. And plus what he did over at Reach, like building that label from the ground up and created other big stars, big Christian hip hop stars from that label. I mean, I don't understand how you can put anybody else above him. Some people may do it, and I respect everyone's opinion, but that's for me. I can't say anybody else but Lecrae.
So I would say Lecrae too, and I'm gonna be honest with you. Anybody that tries to argue that he's not the GOAT, they just basically trying to prove how smart they are. But I mean, let's be honest. If we talking about the best right now in the game, or just like you said over a span of years, I don't know how you couldn't put him as the GOAT of Christian rap. Bro.
I don't know, man, but I've seen some crazy lists out here, man. And sometimes, I'll be honest with you, man, I think people kind of do it for shock value. They want to just do that so everybody be like, oh, how could you not? And then everybody shares it and everybody, because they're like, oh, how could you know what I mean? So we live in that world too, where people do things for shock value.
Well, if you want to shock everybody right now, I'll give you the opportunity to say that he's not the best, and then you can put somebody else's name in there, so then they'll be searching for the real patience and not the fake patient.
You know what, man? I don't want that type of attention. You know, there are some people who they don't care if they're famous or infamous. I'm not one of those people. I want to speak from the heart, and I'm the type of person, if I say something, I'm gonna stand on it. I'm 10 toes down on it. You see what I'm saying? I don't do things for clicks and likes. I say stuff and I stand on it.
All right. So this kind of switching gears a little bit, but how did you feel about when Kanye dropped his gospel album that was titled Jesus is King? How did you feel about that project?
Yo, man, I'll be honest, man, bro. I was super skeptical at first. Super skeptical at first, but once I started following, you know, a lot of his Sunday services, I was like, okay, is he doing this, you know, just to try to, you know, create a buzz? You see what I'm saying, around himself, you know? So I was tentative and skeptical at first, man, but once I really listened through Jesus is King, because that album, the production is amazing. Amazing. The production in that album is amazing. However, the lyricism is very simplistic. You see what I'm saying? The lyrics is nothing like that just wows you with lyricism. It's very simplistic. However, the impact it had on I still listen to that album to this day, because I feel like it's kind of a moment in time. You know what I mean? A lot of people would try to say, oh, well, Kanye's not Christian. Look at what he's doing over here and look at what he's doing over there. I'm just like, it's not even about that. I feel like God used him in that space where I feel like when he made Jesus as King, he was fully committed to the Lord. I feel like that. Because you can hear it, you know what I mean, in the album. You know what I mean? I feel like he was fully committed. And, you know, the vibes I get from it, the worship experience that I get from listening to that album was so powerful. So when I look at it now, you know what I mean? I'm just like, nah, man, God used this. I believe God used this to like really introduce some of his fan base to the Lord and really give them a real encounter with God through that album. So Jesus is King has a special place, you know what I mean, amongst the Christian hip hop albums that I listen to, man. It has a special place in there. And so I really appreciated that one, even more so than the Donda series. I don't know if you were going to ask me about those next, but the Donda series, you know what I mean? Those were okay, but to me, you know, of course, in that one, you know, the lyricism, the commercial aspect, and, you know, all of that was there. But man, Jesus is King. You want to talk about a powerful album, you know what I mean? To me, it was very powerful.
So I wasn't going to bring it up, but since you brought it up, I guess I'll say how I feel about it. So the Donda projects, I don't know how you felt about it. I was a little confused on them, and I'm going to tell you why. Because after he came out with the Jesus is King, I thought he was going to keep on coming out with more what most people would consider to be like gospel projects. But the Donda, he kind of started blurring the lines a little bit. And then in some of the songs, like I heard somebody say a cuss word, and I was like, hold on. I was like, hold on. Are we cussing the gospel music? So that kind of threw me off a little bit. And then, of course, he was bringing on artists that everybody knows aren't even really trying to proclaim themselves as being gospel artists. So I was like, I get that he was trying to gain the reach of more people. But when he started doing those kind of things, it kind of threw me off. So I didn't really know where to classify those albums. So that's why I didn't even really want to bring it up. But since you brought it up, that's just my personal opinion. I could be wrong. But
no, listen, bro, you're entitled to your personal opinion. Don't let everybody make you feel like you're wrong for that. All right. And I agree with you. I felt like he kind of fell back into, instead of saying, God is going to do this, I'm going to make myself a vessel and allow God to reach people through me. I think he felt like, well, let me go try to round all these people up myself and try to create something that I know people can't deny. You can't deny if I got Jadakiss on there, if I got Dirk on there, you know what I mean? If I got Andre 3000 on there, if I got all of these, top artists that everybody looking at, then they won't be able to say, oh, that's whack or that's this. And I'm just like, it's not even about that, because when you're a Christian artist, you're not doing this in your strength. It's about God working through you. You see what I'm saying? And I felt like in Jesus is King, he got that. He understood that concept, right? But I feel like with the Donda projects, he just kind of fell back into the pressure of, oh, I got to make something that's undeniable, that no one can deny. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Now, I will say this, and I don't know if I'm the only person that's ever thought like this. I still say to this day that if Kanye would have tweaked the little words here and there in the Jesus Walk song, that would have been probably one of the hottest gospel songs that's ever been made.
Oh, man.
If you go back and listen to that song, there's only a couple of words here and there that I think he said a cuss word in there like one time, and I think he said the N-word once or twice. If he would have just like not said the cuss word and took the N-word out, it would have been a gospel song.
Listen, man. Listen, I'm telling you, that song right there, when it came out, it stirred up so much controversy, man, because it was, you had places like Stellar Awards and Grammy Awards were nominating that song as a gospel song. And a lot of gospel artists were upset because they were like, yo, that's not a gospel song. I don't think he ever meant it to be a gospel song. I think he wanted it to be a secular song, but he wanted to talk about Jesus. Because even in the song, he said people can rap about anything except for Jesus. He said, so if I talk about God, my record won't get spins. Then he said, well, if it take away from my ends, I hope it take away from my sins. You know what I mean? So he never meant for that to be in the gospel space. He was just trying to prove a point that everybody else talks about everything else in their music, and that's okay, but I can't talk about Jesus. You know what I mean? So that's why he kind of put that, he kind of made it like in your face. You know what I mean? And that's why in there, he talks about selling drugs, and, he curses in there and talks about other things like, but he put it in your face, like, y'all gonna have to deal with it. You know what I mean? And like I said, I respected him for that. It was polarizing at first, but looking back, I respect what he was trying to do, because he's like, he was really putting the music industry on blast. Like, listen, y'all let people are 5%ers, people are Muslims, people talk about all of this stuff in their music and y'all play it with no problem. But if I talk about Jesus, now y'all got, even though it's not necessarily within the context of biblical scripture, right? But the fact that he put the name Jesus in the song, now everybody got an issue. I felt like he was really calling the industry to the carpet on that, more so than he was trying to do something within the gospel space.
Yeah, I agree. So let me ask you this question. Would you ever do a collab with a secular artist?
I would. However, we would have to have a conversation first. It won't be just, hey, man, I like your style. Put a verse on this beat. I'm going to put a verse on this beat and put it out. I'm like, nah, I would have to have a conversation with them, because I feel like it would have to be a situation where there's a mutual respect, and they're like, yo, I want to do a song with you. It won't be me reaching out to them trying to get on their platform. It'll be more so if we meet, at a music conference or a different place, and there's a mutual respect and we have a conversation, and they're like, yo, I really like what you're doing. I like the fact that you're unashamed about putting God in your music. You know what I mean? And I like your style, so I want to do something with you. And then there would have to be a conversation, because I feel like I said before, my music is that tool that feeds people. So if they want to get on the track, then they realize that a lot of that stuff that they may talk about in their music, whether it's, money, cars, girls, materialism, all of that stuff, you gotta leave that behind. You see what I'm saying? Because what I'm doing on this track, I had to give an account for, you know what I mean, to the Lord. So I'm not going to say no, because I look at it like at the end of the day, because a lot of people was upset, like when Nicki Minaj did the song with Tasha Cobbs. You see what I'm saying? A lot of people was like, ah. But I'm just like, the thing about it is, we have a responsibility to share the gospel with everyone. So God brings someone into your spirit who the world looks at as a secular artist, and they want to do a song with you. But here's the thing. On the Tasha Cobbs, Nicki Minaj song, right? Who made the compromise? Was it Tasha Cobbs or was it Nicki Minaj? It was Nicki Minaj, because Nicki Minaj was talking about God. Tasha Cobbs wasn't singing about being in the club. You see what I'm saying? So it's about, Nicki talked about her desire because she grew up in church. Her grandmother and everybody had her in church. So she felt like, in a way to honor her grandmother, she was like, my grandmother, I know she would be honored if I made a gospel song. So that was kind of her inspiration for doing that. So in a similar vein, if I meet a secular artist and they're like, listen, you know what I mean? I really feel like, I want to do this, because you never know where that could lead. That could open up a thing for them to say, you know what? I don't want to do that anymore. Whatever career I have left, I want to give it to the Lord. You never know how it will work. So I would never, because I look at it like people put barriers up. I'm trying to build bridges. You see what I'm saying? But I'm doing it within the context of staying true to who I am, as a Christian.
All right. So this is kind of along the same vein as a question I just asked you. So how do you feel about artists that do secular music, then drop a gospel album, then go back to making secular music?
That right there, I don't understand it. You know what I mean? I don't understand it. Like I said, because I'm gonna tell you, the way it looks is, it's just like you're just trying to do what you think will sell. There's really no conviction, in your music. You see what I'm saying? Because if you were convicted, then you would say, okay, this is who I am. This is an extension of who I am as a person. This is an extension of my life that I'm putting out here. You know what I mean? But if you're just if you're just doing saying, well, I'm going to do this because I think it will sell, or I'm going to do this because, or for whatever the motivation is, I'm just like, you really didn't have to do that. You see what I'm saying? But like I said, because I feel like a part of what makes the gospel powerful is the fact that as Christian artists, we're not supposed to, I'll say that, we're not supposed to be lying and putting anything false in our music just for the sake of commercialism or trying to sell. That's not what we do. We're supposed to put the truth of God's word and how it has touched our lives, you know what I mean, and our story and our journey. That's what we're supposed to put in the music. Of course, you do it in a creative way. You can do it in a way that appeals to people, but at the core of it, it's supposed to be the truth of God's word and how it has impacted your life. So when you turn it into, when an artist does something that's just, okay, I'm going to put, God on this, I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to put it out, and then I'm going to go right back to what I was doing before. To me, I see no conviction. There's no conversion. It's just, I'm doing it because I think it's going to sell.
Well, the one instance that always comes to my mind, and I know it's probably taboo to even talk about this, so you're not even supposed to say his name anymore, but I don't know if you remember when R. Kelly did it. So, he had all them albums, and then he dropped that one gospel album that had the song Prayer Changes, which actually is a hot song. Like, Prayer Changes is hot. So then he dropped that gospel album, but then he went right back to making, like, I was like, hold on, like, R. Kelly, what you doing, man? So I was always a little confused by that, but hey, man, I guess.
Yeah, man, and as you know, in that time in his life was when a lot of this stuff that he ended up getting convicted for started bubbling up, right? All of the, him being with the underage girls and all that. We don't got to get into that. People who know, But when all that stuff started bubbling up, he kind of ran to the church as this safe haven, right? And that's when he made the Step in the Name of Love, You Save Me kind of double album. right? Because you're right. He had some powerful songs on there. Prayer Changes, You Saved Me. It was
Prayer
so
changes.
many. I'm telling you, you could see that God really gave him a gift. And if he was to use it for the Lord, the type of people and the impact he could reach. But it's just almost like, okay, once he kind of got in the clear, it was like, oh, okay, now I'm gonna go back to doing what I really wanted to do. You know what I mean? It just lets me know that there was no conversion there. There may have been a conviction, you see what I'm saying? But no conversion. That's the difference. You could be convicted on something, but if you don't start walking in that path, there's no conversion. So it was disappointing because I felt like it kind of invalidates. Whenever you do something like that, you go back, it kind of invalidates it. You know what I mean? And it kind of loses because you're just like, how can I listen to this now? You know what I mean? Because as I said earlier, the thing about Christian artists, not to say that we're perfect. We are not perfect people. We make mistakes just like everybody else. I'm not sitting up here saying that we're supposed to be perfect once we give our life to the Lord, but we are supposed to strive, we're supposed to strive to follow after the word of God and walk along that path. So if we make a mistake, guess what? We don't go back, and you sure don't make an album about going back. You whatever that mistake was, you talk to the Lord about it, you ask for forgiveness, and then you get back on the path. You know what I mean? So.
All right, real quick, not to totally switch gears, but can you take a few minutes to talk to us about your song, Pushing?
Yeah, absolutely, man. Listen, I wrote that song because it was just kind of my way to let people know, you know what I mean, that I'm pushing prayer. So that's what I'm on. That's like the vein I'm on. You see what I'm saying? And so it was just a way for me to creatively say that, you know, after all this time, you know, after everything I've been through, I understand like the power of prayer and what it can do. I've seen what it can do in my life and the life of others. So that's what I'm pushing. You know what I mean? And I wrote that song around the time when Gunna wrote the song Pushing P.
I knew exactly what you was doing. That's why I was like, he pushing the other P. Okay.
There you go. Okay, so you picked up on it.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah.
But I was like, but as you know, like with Gunna, Pushing P was never really defined. You see what I'm saying? It was kind of this vague thing. But I was like, I'm pushing. I didn't call it Pushing P because, you know, I didn't want it to even be associated. But I was like, I'm pushing prayer. And I'm very clear about what it is that I'm pushing. You see what I'm saying? Because I've seen the power of God and how it worked in my life and in the life of others.
I like that. So the premise of this podcast is independent artists learning from other independent artists. So if you would, please take a few minutes and just let us know if there's any mistakes that you've made so far in your music career that other people can learn from.
Absolutely. Listen, mistakes that I've learned, which is not understanding how important marketing is. Because you could have a great, powerful song, but if you don't actually take time to understand how to market that song, meaning when I say market that song, make sure that you research, connect with, or even create a vehicle to get that song to the people who will love and appreciate it, and it could potentially change their lives. So marketing is so important because there's so many good artists out here. And I understand, as an artist, you just want to create. You don't want to have to worry about, you know, putting it on this blog, putting it on here, putting it on there. But as an indie artist, when you first getting started, and even along your path, you know, you may have a season where people working for you, everything's doing, but you may end up back to where you got to do it. But you have to be willing to do it. You know what I mean? And so understanding that, if I could go back to the beginning and understand that component, you know what I mean? I think it would have made a big difference to where I am. So artists, please, if you're a new artist, understand. And I think it's a lot better now because, like I said, when I first started, social media wasn't prevalent. It was like MySpace was really around. It wasn't really, other than that, wasn't really anything. Right now, they have vehicles already set up. Social media is already set up. So with marketing, the biggest thing is consistency, all right? Because unless you're an artist who's got a big budget where you can pay people to constantly keep your music fresh and put it out there, you got to be creative. You see what I'm saying? And places like TikTok, Instagram, even Snapchat, there are tools built in there, man. Y'all listen, new artists, man, y'all got so many tools that I wish I had. There are tools built in, where you can do creative filters, creative things, but it has to still come from here, and you have to be committed to making sure that you are consistent, because you can market, but you got to be consistent, because now, like I said earlier, we're working in an algorithm-based, music industry. So if you're not consistent, the algorithm going to forget about you and push you back down, and no one's going to see your stuff. You know what I mean? So consistency keys, whether it's once a week, once a day, however you choose to do it, the algorithm learns. Okay, they drop something every Sunday. They drop something every Monday. The algorithm learns. So the more you're consistent, the more people you're able to reach. And then the time and the effort that you put into making that good song will provide you an opportunity to get it out to people, man. So marketing, that's a big part of it.
All right. Well, before we get out of here, let the audience know where they can find you online.
Definitely, man. Listen, the easiest place to find everywhere I am is to go to linktree.com/TheRealPatience. That's linktree.com/TheRealPatience. My press is in there. All the Spotify links, Tidal, Apple Music. Of course, I'm on all social media. If you can't find me, just go to the search bar, type in TheRealPatience. And like I said, a lot of people nowadays, they just want to try to find it all in one place. The simplest way, just go to Google, type in TheRealPatience, all one word. Don't type TheRealPatience, because I don't know what it's going to take you. Smush it all together, TheRealPatience, just one word. And then it'll bring up my music page. You'll find, all of the stuff that I'm currently doing and what I've been doing. But if you want to keep up, like with what I'm doing on a regular, you gotta follow me on social media, because that's where whenever I post like new videos, concert dates, tour dates, upcoming, collabs, and even, this podcast, you know what I mean? Things like this, you'll be able to see it there. So follow me on social media. Just go to the search bar, type in TheRealPatience, follow me, and we'll stay linked that way.
All right, man. Well, I appreciate you taking time to come on the podcast, and we'll be linking up soon.
Yes, sir, man. I appreciate you, man. Blessings.
All right. Have a good day.
Yes, sir.
All right, now.